Work smarter, not harder. Introduction. Have you ever found yourself exhausted at the end of the day, feeling like you gave everything you had, yet still seem to make no progress at all? Maybe you've poured hours, days, even months of your life into your work or your goals, only to see results that feel mediocre or entirely absent. And the harder you work, the more elusive success seems to become, like a mirage in the distance that fades the closer you get. If you're like most people, you've been taught that this is how life works: the harder you work, the more you'll achieve. You've likely been told that if you're not succeeding, you're just not trying hard enough, and that you need to push yourself even further, sacrifice more, and dig deeper. Yet, despite following this advice, you're left feeling drained, frustrated, and questioning whether you're even on the right path. The endless grind starts to weigh down not just your body but your spirit, pulling you away from the things that really matter. You might have started to notice the signs of burnout creeping in, feeling tired even after you've supposedly rested, experiencing anxiety or stress when thinking about work, and losing the passion you once had for the things you used to love. Maybe you've noticed your relationships with others suffering because you're always busy, always distracted, always too tired at the end of the day to fully engage with your family, friends, or even yourself. Or perhaps you've seen your sense of purpose starting to erode, where you no longer know why you're doing what you're doing, yet you feel trapped by the need to continue. Does this sound familiar? You're certainly not alone in this. Millions of people around the world wake up each day, jump straight into their routine, and hustle until they can't anymore, hoping that their effort will eventually pay off, only to wonder why they still feel stuck. But what if the problem isn't with the amount of effort you're putting in, but rather where and how you're applying it? What if everything you've been taught about working harder was wrong? Think about all the times you've heard phrases like no pain, no gain, or success is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. These are the mantras many of us live by, reinforced by societal values that place productivity above all else. We've been conditioned to believe that we must constantly strive, push, and force our way to the top, that long hours and sacrifice are the only path to achieving our dreams. And yet, how often do we stop to question whether this approach is truly working for us? How often do we pause to reflect on whether the endless grind is really leading us toward fulfillment, or simply leaving us more drained and disconnected than ever before? Imagine the frustration of continuously climbing a ladder, only to find out it's leaning against the wrong wall. You've been giving everything to the wrong pursuit, or perhaps the right pursuit in the wrong way. It's easy to confuse being busy with being productive, but the truth is they are worlds apart. Busyness is an illusion of progress, keeping us trapped in a cycle of activity that feels necessary but is often unproductive. We fill our days with tasks and responsibilities that don't move us any closer to our true goals, simply because we've been led to believe that activity equals value. And in doing so, we lose sight of what's truly important: our purpose, our passions, our peace of mind. But what if there's a different way? What if, instead of trying harder, you learn to work smarter? What if you could achieve more by doing less, not through laziness or shortcuts, but by aligning your efforts with your true purpose and focusing on what really matters? There's a deep irony in the fact that many of us work so hard in pursuit of happiness and success, yet end up sacrificing the very things that bring us joy and fulfillment along the way. We lose touch with our inner selves, the part of us that knows what we really want and need, as we get caught up in the noise of external expectations. We forget to listen to our intuition, that quiet inner voice that guides us toward what's right for us, and instead, we chase after external markers of success that don't necessarily align with our true desires. And as we do, we become disconnected from the flow of life, that natural state of ease and grace where things seem to fall into place effortlessly, without force or struggle. You've probably experienced moments like this, even if they were fleeting, times when everything seemed to click, when opportunities seemed to come your way without you having to chase them, when you felt deeply connected to your purpose and your actions flowed naturally from that place. But for most of us, these moments are rare, buried beneath the weight of our daily responsibilities and the constant pressure to keep up, to do more, to be more. The modern world has trained us to value hustle above all else, but this mindset comes at a cost. It's no wonder that rates of stress, anxiety, and burnout are at an all-time high. People are pushing themselves harder than ever before, yet they feel more unfulfilled, disconnected, and overwhelmed. They feel like they're spinning their wheels, putting in all this effort, but getting nowhere fast. The harder they push, the more resistant life seems to become, as if the universe itself is telling them they're going about things the wrong way. But it doesn't have to be this way. The path to true success, both external and internal, doesn't come from pushing harder or doing more. It comes from learning to align your actions with your deeper purpose, from working in a way that feels natural and intuitive, rather than forced and exhausting. It comes from trusting that when you're in the right flow, the right opportunities will come to you, and the right actions will naturally follow. In a world that glorifies busyness, this might sound counterintuitive. After all, we've been taught to believe that success is something we must fight for, that the road to achievement is paved with blood, sweat, and tears. But what if there was a different road? A road that leads not to burnout and frustration, but to ease and fulfillment? A road where your efforts are not wasted, but multiplied, because they're aligned with your true purpose. This is the road of working smarter, not harder. It's about learning to leverage your time, energy, and resources in a way that brings you closer to your goals without sacrificing your well-being in the process. It's about learning to listen to your intuition, to follow the flow of life, and to trust that when you're in alignment with your purpose, success will come naturally, not through force, but through grace. When you learn to work smarter, you stop chasing success and start attracting it. You stop trying to force things to happen and start allowing them to unfold in their own time. You stop operating from a place of lack and scarcity, where you feel like you have to do more to be enough, and start operating from a place of abundance, where you trust that you already have everything you need within you to succeed. And as you do, you'll find that life becomes less of a struggle and more of a dance, where you're moving in harmony with the rhythm of the universe rather than fighting against it. But make no mistake, working smarter doesn't mean working less, it means working differently. It means being more intentional with your time and energy, focusing on the things that truly matter rather than getting caught up in the noise of endless tasks and distractions. It means learning to say no to the things that don't serve you, so you can say yes to the things that do. And it means learning to trust yourself and your intuition, rather than constantly seeking validation or approval from external sources. At the core of working smarter is a deep understanding of your purpose, knowing what you're here to do and why it matters. Without this clarity, it's easy to get lost in the shuffle of daily life, chasing goals that don't truly resonate with you or taking on responsibilities that drain you rather than energize you. But when you have a clear sense of purpose, everything changes. You're no longer pulled in a million different directions, trying to do everything and please everyone. Instead, you're able to focus your efforts on the things that truly matter, the things that bring you joy, fulfillment, and success. You're able to let go of the need to constantly prove yourself, because you know that your worth is not defined by how much you do, but by who you are and how you show up in the world. So, are you ready to let go of the grind and embrace a new way of working? Are you ready to stop pushing yourself to the brink of exhaustion and start working in a way that feels aligned, purposeful, and fulfilling? Are you ready to stop chasing success and start attracting it? If so, then you're in the right place. Chapter 1: The Trap of Busyness and the Illusion of Hard Work. The trap of busyness is a silent thief. It creeps into your life unnoticed, disguising itself as productivity, convincing you that the more you do, the more you'll achieve. But as you look around, you start to see the effects of its deception. You're constantly occupied, your schedule filled to the brim, yet you feel like you're standing still. It's an all too common scenario in today's world, people hustling from dawn till dusk, chasing goals that seem to drift further out of reach the harder they work. We've been conditioned to believe that busyness is synonymous with success, that filling our days with tasks and responsibilities is the only way to get ahead. But in reality, busyness is often the enemy of progress, a form of self-sabotage that keeps you spinning your wheels while going nowhere fast. At the heart of this trap is a deep-seated belief system, ingrained in many of us from a young age, that equates effort with value. We're told that if we're not working hard, if we're not constantly busy, then we're not doing enough. This belief is reinforced by societal norms that celebrate hustle culture, where the people who are always on the go, always juggling multiple things at once, are held up as examples of success. You see it everywhere, on social media, in the workplace, in the stories of entrepreneurs who claim to sleep only 4 hours a night while building multi-million-dollar empires. We admire these people, aspire to be like them, and internalize the message that to succeed, we must sacrifice our time, our energy, and sometimes even our well-being. But what this narrative doesn't tell you is the toll that constant busyness takes on your mind, body, and spirit. It doesn't show you the burnout, the stress, the anxiety, or the hollow feeling of working endlessly without ever feeling truly fulfilled. The truth is, busyness can be a form of avoidance. It keeps you distracted from the deeper questions, from confronting the uncomfortable reality that maybe, just maybe, all this effort isn't leading you where you want to go. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day tasks, checking things off your to-do list, feeling a sense of accomplishment because you've been productive. But when you pause to reflect, you might realize that you're not actually making meaningful progress toward your larger goals. You might notice that despite all your hard work, you're still not where you want to be. This is the illusion of busyness. It gives you the sensation of forward motion, but often it's just a treadmill, keeping you in place. One of the reasons we fall into this trap is that busyness provides a sense of control. When you're constantly moving, constantly doing, it feels like you're in charge of your destiny. There's comfort in the hustle because it gives you the illusion that you're actively shaping your future. And to some extent, that's true. Hard work and effort are necessary components of success. But the problem arises when you become so focused on the act of working that you lose sight of whether that work is truly aligned with your goals. You get so caught up in the process that you forget to step back and ask yourself, is this getting me where I want to go? It's possible to be incredibly busy yet profoundly unproductive, spending your time and energy on things that don't move the needle in any meaningful way. And the longer you stay in this state, the more difficult it becomes to break free. Busyness also serves as a convenient excuse. It allows you to avoid facing the reality that maybe the path you're on isn't the right one. When you're constantly busy, there's no time to pause and reflect, no time to sit with the discomfort of realizing that your efforts might be misdirected. It's easier to stay busy, to keep pushing forward, rather than take a step back and reevaluate your approach. After all, it's scary to admit that all the work you've been doing might not be paying off the way you'd hoped. It's uncomfortable to acknowledge that you might need to change course, to let go of certain tasks or projects that no longer serve you. So instead, you keep going, convincing yourself that if you just work a little harder, put in a few more hours, everything will eventually fall into place. But here's the harsh truth. Working harder won't necessarily bring you closer to success if you're not working on the right things. Effort without direction is wasted energy. You can pour your heart and soul into your work, but if that work isn't aligned with your true goals and purpose, you'll end up exhausted and unfulfilled. The problem is that many of us don't take the time to get clear on what those true goals are. We fall into the trap of busyness because it distracts us from the deeper, more important work of figuring out what we really want and how to get there. It's easier to stay busy than to face the uncertainty that comes with re-evaluating your path. But without that clarity, without a clear sense of purpose, busyness becomes a cycle that's hard to break, keeping you trapped in a state of constant motion but little progress. This illusion of hard work as the ultimate solution to all problems is deeply ingrained in our culture. We glorify the grind, the idea that if you're not hustling, you're falling behind. But the reality is, relentless hard work without reflection and strategy can actually be a hindrance. It can blind you to better opportunities, smarter ways of doing things, and more efficient paths to success. When you're in the thick of constant busyness, it's difficult to see the bigger picture. You're so focused on getting through your daily tasks that you lose sight of whether those tasks are even the right ones. And because busyness can feel so satisfying, because it gives you a sense of accomplishment, even if that accomplishment is superficial, you keep going, not realizing that you're stuck in a loop of activity that's not truly moving you forward. The societal pressure to stay busy also plays a significant role in this trap. We live in a world that values output, that measures worth by productivity. From a young age, we're taught to value doing over being, to prioritize action over reflection. This creates a constant pressure to fill our days with tasks, to always be on the go, to never stop and simply be. And when we do take a moment to pause, we often feel guilty, as if we're wasting time or falling behind. This guilt is fueled by the fear that if we're not constantly working, we won't succeed, that we'll be left behind in the race for achievement. But this fear is based on a false premise, the idea that success is purely a function of how much you do, rather than how well you do it or how aligned your actions are with your true goals. One of the dangers of living in a constant state of busyness is that it leaves little room for creativity and innovation. When your mind is always occupied with tasks, there's no space for new ideas to emerge. You become so focused on the immediate demands of your to-do list that you don't give yourself the mental freedom to think bigger, to explore new possibilities, or to find more efficient ways of doing things. Creativity thrives in moments of stillness, in those quiet spaces where you're not actively working but simply allowing your mind to wander and explore. But when you're caught in the cycle of busyness, those moments of stillness are rare, if they happen at all. And as a result, you miss out on the insights and breakthroughs that come from giving yourself the time and space to reflect. Busyness can also rob you of your joy and passion. When you're constantly working, constantly moving from one task to the next, it's easy to lose sight of why you're doing what you're doing in the first place. You become so focused on the act of working that you forget the larger purpose behind it. You start to see your work as a series of obligations rather than a source of fulfillment, and over time, this can lead to burnout. The things you once loved doing, the goals you were once excited about, start to feel like burdens. You lose the sense of excitement and passion that initially drove you, and instead, work becomes something you endure rather than enjoy. And the more burned out you become, the harder it is to break free from this cycle of busyness, because you're too exhausted to even think about how to change your approach. Breaking free from the trap of busyness requires a fundamental shift in mindset. It requires letting go of the belief that more effort automatically equals more success. It requires recognizing that success isn't just about how much you do, but about doing the right things, in the right way, at the right time. This means taking a step back from the constant hustle and giving yourself the space to reflect on what truly matters. It means being willing to say no to the tasks and responsibilities that don't align with your goals, even if they seem important or urgent in the moment. It means learning to prioritize quality over quantity, focusing on the things that will have the greatest impact rather than trying to do everything at once. Most importantly, it means trusting that you don't have to do it all, that you can achieve your goals without sacrificing your well-being in the process. Chapter 2: The Power of Alignment and Purpose. Alignment and purpose are the keys to unlocking a life that is not only productive, but deeply fulfilling. Yet, in the rush of everyday life, the concept of alignment is often pushed aside, sacrificed on the altar of busyness. Most people go through their days on autopilot, moving from one task to another, checking things off their lists, but without ever stopping to ask themselves whether these tasks are truly aligned with their values, their desires, and their greater purpose. It's easy to get caught in the momentum of the day, in the endless stream of responsibilities and obligations that seem urgent but are often not important. And as you move through this cycle, the feeling that something is missing begins to grow stronger. You might start to feel a sense of disconnection or dissatisfaction, even if you're achieving external success. This disconnection is a signal that you're out of alignment, that the actions you're taking each day are not fully connected to who you are or who you want to be. Finding alignment requires a deeper level of introspection, a willingness to pause and ask yourself difficult questions about what you truly want from life. But this kind of self-reflection is often uncomfortable, which is why so many people avoid it. It's much easier to stay busy, to keep moving through life without taking the time to question whether you're on the right path. But without alignment, even the most productive days will feel hollow. You can accomplish great things, reach significant milestones, and still feel unfulfilled if those achievements are not connected to your true purpose. Alignment isn't about doing more, it's about doing what matters most. It's about ensuring that the actions you take each day are in harmony with your deepest values, with the vision you have for your life, and with the unique contribution you are here to make. The challenge is that finding alignment in a world that constantly demands more from you can feel like a luxury you can't afford. We live in a culture that prioritizes speed, efficiency, and productivity over introspection, reflection, and purpose. The pressure to keep up, to constantly perform, and to meet external expectations can make it difficult to carve out the time and space you need to reconnect with yourself. But the truth is, without that connection, you'll continue to feel scattered, drained, and unfulfilled, no matter how much you accomplish. Alignment is not a luxury, it is a necessity for living a meaningful and satisfying life. It is the foundation upon which true success is built, and without it, you will always feel like something is missing. One of the first steps in finding alignment is to get clear on your purpose. This is not about finding one singular calling that defines your life, but rather about understanding the deeper reasons behind your actions. What motivates you? What drives you? What are the values that guide your decisions? When you are clear on your purpose, it becomes easier to make choices that are aligned with who you are and what you want to create in the world. You stop wasting time on things that don't matter, and you start focusing your energy on the things that truly move the needle. Purpose gives you clarity, direction, and a sense of meaning that makes even the most challenging tasks feel worthwhile. But purpose is not something that can be discovered overnight. It requires a process of exploration, trial and error, and deep reflection. Many people struggle with the idea of purpose because they've been conditioned to think of it as something external, something that must be found or discovered outside of themselves. But true purpose comes from within. It is not something that is handed to you, it is something that you uncover by listening to your intuition, paying attention to the things that light you up, and being willing to follow the path that feels right for you, even if it doesn't make sense to others. Alignment comes from trusting yourself, from knowing that the answers you seek are already within you, and that you have the wisdom and the guidance to make the right choices for your life. Once you are clear on your purpose, the next step is to align your actions with that purpose. This is where many people get stuck. It's one thing to know what you want, but it's another thing entirely to live in alignment with those desires every day. The demands of life can pull you in many different directions, and it's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day grind, losing sight of your bigger vision. But living in alignment means being intentional about how you spend your time and energy. It means making choices that are in service of your purpose, even when it's difficult, even when it requires sacrifice, and even when it goes against the grain of what others expect from you. This is where the power of mindfulness comes into play. Mindfulness is not just about being present in the moment, it's about being conscious of the choices you're making and ensuring that those choices are in line with your values and purpose. When you practice mindfulness, you create space between stimulus and response, allowing yourself to make decisions from a place of clarity rather than reactivity. This is crucial for staying in alignment because life will always present you with distractions, temptations, and challenges that can pull you off course. But when you are mindful, you have the ability to pause, reflect, and choose the path that is most aligned with your purpose, rather than simply reacting to whatever is happening around you. It's also important to recognize that alignment is not a one-time decision. It's an ongoing process, a practice that you must engage with every day. Life is dynamic, constantly changing, and evolving, and as you grow and change, so too will your sense of purpose and alignment. What feels right for you today may not feel right for you a year from now, and that's okay. The key is to remain open and flexible, allowing yourself to adjust your course as needed, while always staying true to the deeper values and desires that guide you. This requires a willingness to let go of things that no longer serve you, even if they once did. It requires the courage to say no to opportunities, relationships, and commitments that are not in alignment with your purpose, even if it means disappointing others or stepping outside your comfort zone. Living in alignment with your purpose also means being willing to take risks. When you're on the path of alignment, you will inevitably encounter moments of uncertainty, fear, and doubt. This is because alignment often requires you to step into the unknown, to pursue a path that feels true to you but may not be supported by external validation or societal norms. But it is in these moments of uncertainty that the greatest growth and fulfillment can be found. When you trust yourself enough to follow your inner guidance, even when it feels risky or uncomfortable, you open yourself up to new possibilities and experiences that can lead to deeper levels of success and satisfaction. Alignment requires faith in yourself, faith in the process, and faith that the universe will support you when you are living in accordance with your true purpose. One of the most powerful aspects of alignment is that it creates a sense of flow in your life. When you are aligned with your purpose, things tend to fall into place with greater ease. You no longer have to push or force things to happen because you are working with the natural flow of life, rather than against it. This doesn't mean that you won't encounter challenges or obstacles along the way, but it does mean that you'll be better equipped to handle them because you'll be coming from a place of inner strength and clarity. When you're in alignment, you have a sense of peace and confidence that allows you to navigate life's ups and downs with greater grace and resilience. You're no longer at the mercy of external circumstances because you're grounded in your own truth. Alignment also brings a deeper sense of fulfillment to everything you do. When your actions are aligned with your purpose, even the most mundane tasks can take on new meaning. You start to see how every action, no matter how small, is a part of a larger picture, contributing to your overall sense of purpose and fulfillment. This doesn't mean that you'll never have to do things you don't enjoy, but it does mean that those tasks will feel less burdensome because you'll understand their place in the grander scheme of things. When you're in alignment, you're able to approach your work, your relationships, and your life with a sense of joy and purpose that makes everything feel more meaningful and satisfying. Ultimately, alignment is about living in integrity with yourself. It's about being honest with yourself about what you want, what you value, and what you're willing to do to create the life you desire. It's about making choices that reflect your true self, rather than conforming to the expectations or desires of others. When you live in alignment, you are living a life that is authentic to who you are, rather than trying to fit into someone else's mold of success. This is where true freedom lies, the freedom to be yourself, to pursue your passions, and to create a life that is uniquely your own. And when you live from this place of alignment, success is no longer something you have to chase, it becomes a natural byproduct of living in harmony with your purpose. Chapter 3: Flow and the Secret of Effortless Success. Flow. that elusive state where everything seems to fall into place effortlessly, is one of the most powerful yet underutilized secrets of success. When you're in flow, time seems to disappear, your actions feel natural, and you move through tasks with ease and grace. It's as if the universe is working with you, opening doors and guiding you toward your goals without the need for struggle or force. But for many people, flow feels like an unattainable ideal, something they experience only in fleeting moments, if at all. They spend most of their time pushing, grinding, and forcing things to happen, convinced that success must come through hard work and sacrifice. What they don't realize is that flow is not something reserved for a lucky few, it's a state that anyone can access when they are aligned with their purpose and living in a way that honors their true self. Flow is often misunderstood as a passive state, where things just magically happen without any effort. But in reality, flow requires a deep level of engagement and focus. It's not about doing nothing, it's about doing the right things in the right way, so that your efforts feel natural and aligned, rather than forced or exhausting. When you're in flow, you're not distracted by doubts, fears, or external pressures. Your mind is clear, your actions are intentional, and you're fully immersed in the present moment. This is why flow is often described as a peak state of performance. It allows you to tap into your highest potential because you're not weighed down by the mental clutter that typically holds you back. You're able to access a level of creativity, insight, and productivity that feels almost effortless because everything is flowing from a place of deep alignment and purpose. One of the reasons flow is so difficult for many people to access is that it requires a certain level of trust in yourself, trust in the process, and trust in the timing of life. In a world that values control, certainty, and predictability, this kind of trust can feel risky, even reckless. We're taught to plan, strategize, and prepare for every possible outcome, to leave nothing to chance. But flow operates on a different level. It asks you to let go of the need to control every detail and instead trust that when you are aligned with your purpose, the right opportunities, resources, and people will show up at the right time. This doesn't mean sitting back and waiting for things to happen, it means taking inspired action from a place of trust, knowing that you don't have to force or manipulate circumstances to get what you want. Letting go of control is one of the hardest things for most people to do because it requires surrendering to the unknown. The mind craves certainty and security, and it often equates busyness with progress. But the irony is that the more you try to control everything, the more you block yourself from entering a state of flow. When you're constantly trying to manage every outcome, micromanage every detail, and plan every step, you're not leaving any room for the natural flow of life to guide you. You're operating from a place of fear and scarcity, rather than trust and abundance. Flow requires you to relax into the process, to allow things to unfold in their own time, and to be open to the unexpected opportunities and insights that can arise when you're not rigidly attached to a specific outcome. One of the keys to accessing flow is to create the right conditions for it to emerge. Flow doesn't happen by chance, it happens when you're fully present, deeply engaged, and working on something that is both challenging and meaningful. This is why alignment with your purpose is so critical to achieving flow. When you're doing work that is aligned with your deepest values and desires, it's much easier to get into a state of flow because you're naturally more engaged and motivated. The tasks you're working on feel significant, not just in terms of external results, but in terms of how they resonate with your inner sense of purpose. You're not just going through the motions or doing things out of obligation, you're doing them because they matter to you on a deep level. And this sense of meaning and significance is what fuels the deep focus and immersion that are necessary for flow to occur. Flow also requires a certain level of challenge. If the task you're working on is too easy, you'll quickly become bored and disengaged. On the other hand, if it's too difficult, you'll feel overwhelmed and frustrated. Flow happens in that sweet spot where the task is just challenging enough to keep you fully engaged, but not so challenging that it feels impossible. This is why it's important to continually stretch yourself, to push beyond your comfort zone, but in a way that feels manageable and achievable. When you're constantly taking on tasks that are too easy, you're not growing, and you're not giving yourself the opportunity to enter a state of flow. But when you take on tasks that challenge you in just the right way, you create the perfect conditions for flow to emerge. Another crucial aspect of flow is the ability to focus deeply without distractions. In today's world, where we are constantly bombarded with information, notifications, and demands for our attention, this kind of deep focus can feel almost impossible. But flow requires that you eliminate distractions and create a space where you can fully immerse yourself in the task at hand. This might mean turning off your phone, closing your email, or setting aside time where you won't be interrupted. It also means training your mind to stay focused on one thing at a time, rather than constantly jumping from task to task. Multitasking is one of the biggest enemies of flow because it fragments your attention and makes it impossible to fully engage with anything. Flow thrives on deep, sustained focus, where you're able to lose yourself in the task and forget about everything else. The beauty of flow is that when you're in this state, time seems to disappear. You're so fully immersed in what you're doing that hours can pass without you even noticing. This is one of the hallmarks of flow, the feeling that you've lost track of time because you're so deeply engaged in the present moment. This doesn't mean that flow is always easy or without effort. In fact, flow often involves a great deal of effort, but it's effort that feels natural and aligned, rather than forced or draining. When you're in flow, you're not thinking about how hard you're working or how much time you're spending, you're simply absorbed in the process, and the work feels like a natural extension of yourself. This is why flow is often described as a state of effortless effort. It's not that you're not working hard, but that the work feels so aligned with who you are and what you're meant to do that it doesn't feel like work in the traditional sense. Flow also has a way of opening you up to new ideas, insights, and creative breakthroughs. When you're in a state of flow, your mind is more open and receptive, allowing you to tap into a deeper level of creativity and intuition. You're able to see connections that you might not have noticed otherwise, and solutions to problems often seem to arise effortlessly. This is because flow allows you to access a higher level of consciousness, where you're not limited by the usual constraints of logic and rational thinking. Instead, you're able to draw on a deeper well of wisdom and creativity, allowing you to solve problems and come up with ideas in a way that feels almost magical. This is why many people describe flow as a state of peak performance. It allows you to operate at your highest level, both intellectually and creatively, without the usual barriers and limitations that hold you back. Flow is not just a state of mind, it's a state of being. When you're in flow, you're not just thinking or doing, you're fully present in the moment, fully engaged with life. You're operating from a place of alignment, where your actions, thoughts, and emotions are all working in harmony. This is why flow feels so good. It's not just about achieving external results, it's about the internal sense of peace, fulfillment, and joy that comes from being fully immersed in something that matters to you. Flow is a state of deep connection, both with yourself and with the world around you. It's a state where you feel in sync with life, where everything seems to come together in a way that feels effortless and natural. One of the most powerful aspects of flow is that it allows you to transcend your usual limitations. When you're in flow, you're able to access a level of potential that is often hidden in your day-to-day life. You're able to tap into reserves of energy, creativity, and focus that you might not even know you had. This is why flow is often associated with extraordinary performance. It allows you to go beyond what you thought was possible, to achieve things that might have seemed out of reach. Flow is not about doing more, it's about accessing more of your own potential. It's about unlocking the part of you that is capable of extraordinary things, the part of you that knows how to succeed without struggle. But flow is not something that can be forced. It's not a state that you can will yourself into or create through sheer effort. Flow happens when you're aligned, when you're doing work that is meaningful, challenging, and deeply connected to your purpose. It's a state that emerges naturally when the conditions are right, when you've created the space for it to flourish. This is why flow is so powerful. It's not something you have to chase, it's something you allow to happen when you're living in alignment with who you are and what you're meant to do. In the end, flow is about trusting yourself and trusting the process. It's about knowing that you don't have to force success, that you don't have to struggle to make things happen. Conclusion. In life, many of us spend years chasing after the idea of success, often measuring it by external standards, whether it's financial gain, career advancement, or public recognition. We're taught to believe that success is a direct result of hard work, of grinding day in and day out until we've exhausted ourselves. We glorify the hustle, embrace the notion that effort alone is the path to achievement, and pour endless amounts of energy into pursuits that we believe will bring us closer to our goals. But in doing so, we lose sight of a much more profound truth, that real success is not about working harder or doing more, but about working smarter and aligning our efforts with a deeper sense of purpose. Without this alignment, even the most strenuous effort becomes wasted energy, pushing us further into frustration and away from the fulfillment we truly seek. The disconnect arises because so many of us operate from a place of fear, scarcity, and a misguided belief in the necessity of constant struggle. We buy into the notion that we must always be striving, always doing more, and that rest or ease is a sign of laziness or complacency. Yet, the reality is that endless busyness and hustle only lead to burnout, leaving us drained, unfulfilled, and perpetually chasing a goal that seems to remain just out of reach. It's like running on a treadmill. No matter how fast or how long you run, you're not actually moving forward. And after a while, the exhaustion begins to take its toll, not just physically, but mentally and emotionally as well. The pursuit of success becomes a burden, a source of stress and anxiety, rather than a source of joy and inspiration. This is where the wisdom of working smarter, not harder, comes into play. Working smarter is about recognizing that success isn't about how much you do, but about how aligned your actions are with your true purpose. It's about shifting your focus from quantity to quality, from endless activity to meaningful, intentional effort. Instead of scattering your energy across 100 different tasks, many of which may not even matter in the long run, you learn to focus on the things that truly move the needle, the things that bring you closer to your deepest desires and highest aspirations. This requires a fundamental shift in mindset, a willingness to step back from the noise and busyness of daily life and ask yourself, am I working on the right things? And, more importantly, am I working in the right way? The concept of alignment is central to this approach. Alignment means ensuring that your actions are in harmony with your values, your goals, and your sense of purpose. It's about moving through life with intention, making choices that reflect who you are and what you truly want to create in the world. When you're aligned, your work no longer feels like a struggle. Yes, there will still be effort involved, but it will be the kind of effort that feels purposeful and fulfilling, rather than draining and overwhelming. You'll find that opportunities begin to flow more easily, that you attract the resources, people, and circumstances you need to move forward, not because you're forcing things to happen, but because you're working in sync with the natural rhythm of life. This is the essence of working smarter. It's about tapping into a state of flow, where your actions are guided by intuition and purpose, rather than fear or obligation. The state of flow, in particular, is one of the most powerful tools you can use to create success without the struggle. Flow is that sweet spot where challenge meets skill, where you're fully engaged in what you're doing, and time seems to disappear. In flow, everything feels effortless, even though you're working hard. This is because flow is a state of deep alignment. Your mind, body, and spirit are all working together in harmony, focused on a singular goal. When you're in flow, you're not thinking about the outcome, you're simply immersed in the process, allowing your best work to emerge naturally. It's a state where creativity and productivity are at their peak, not because you're forcing them, but because you've created the conditions for them to thrive. But how do you access flow? The answer lies in alignment and purpose. Flow doesn't happen when you're working on things that don't matter to you or when you're scattered across too many tasks. It happens when you're deeply engaged in something meaningful, something that challenges you and stretches your abilities, but that also aligns with your values and sense of purpose. This is why alignment is so crucial. Without it, you're constantly working uphill, trying to force results in areas that don't resonate with your true self. But when you're aligned, flow becomes a natural byproduct of your efforts. You stop struggling, and you start thriving. Another key aspect of working smarter is learning to let go of the need to control every outcome. This is one of the hardest lessons for many people to learn, especially in a world that places so much emphasis on control, planning, and predictability. But the truth is, life is inherently unpredictable, and the more you try to control every detail, the more you block yourself from experiencing the flow of life. Working smarter means trusting that when you're aligned with your purpose, the right opportunities will come to you. It means allowing things to unfold in their own time, rather than constantly trying to force things to happen on your schedule. This doesn't mean being passive or waiting for success to fall into your lap. It means taking inspired action from a place of trust and alignment, rather than fear and scarcity. When you're working from a place of alignment and flow, success becomes not just about achieving external goals, but about creating a life that feels deeply fulfilling on every level. You start to realize that true success is not about how much you accomplish, but about how you feel along the way. It's about finding joy and satisfaction in the process, rather than constantly chasing after the next milestone or achievement. And the irony is, when you stop chasing success and start focusing on alignment, flow, and purpose, success tends to come more easily. You're no longer swimming upstream, you're moving with the current, allowing life to support you in ways you couldn't have imagined. But accessing this state of flow and alignment requires a willingness to slow down and reflect. It requires letting go of the belief that you must always be busy, always doing more, and instead, embracing the idea that sometimes less is more. This can be difficult in a world that glorifies busyness and equates productivity with worth, but it's a crucial shift if you want to experience true success and fulfillment. Working smarter means being selective about where you invest your time and energy, focusing on the things that truly matter, and letting go of the rest. It means learning to say no to the things that drain you, even if they seem important or urgent in the moment, so that you can say yes to the things that nourish you and move you closer to your goals. Ultimately, working smarter, not harder, is about living in alignment with who you are and what you truly want from life. It's about creating a life that feels meaningful, fulfilling, and aligned with your deepest values and aspirations. It's about recognizing that success is not just about external achievement, but about how you feel internally, about your sense of peace, joy, and fulfillment. When you're aligned with your purpose, when you're living and working from a place of flow, success is no longer something you have to struggle for. It's something that comes naturally, effortlessly, and with a sense of ease and grace that allows you to enjoy the journey, rather than constantly striving for the destination. Working smarter is not just a strategy for achieving more, it's a philosophy for living a more intentional, fulfilling, and joyful life. It's a way of being that honors both your inner and outer worlds, recognizing that true success comes not from pushing yourself to the brink, but from aligning with your purpose, trusting the process, and allowing life to unfold in its own time. It's about finding the balance between effort and ease, between action and surrender, and between doing and being. And when you master this balance, you'll find that success, fulfillment, and happiness are not things you have to chase, they are things that come naturally when you are living in alignment with who you truly are.